Learn how to get your first 1,000 YouTube subscribers. Join our Patreon page now. Link in the description. And we are live! Hey! Hi everyone, and welcome for another episode of the Puppet Podcast. We are the 46th. My God, it's so much good guests, so much great, amazing puppeteer that I get to the show. And yeah, it's really a happy moment because this weekend we have this workshop, and I just want to bring it into the screen. It's the Patreon workshop. So here you see how it works. So to have access to the workshop, for sure you need to be part of our Patreon people. And I just said for the guests of the podcast, I give them also an access. So that's kind of a win-win situation. So yeah, here it's the next one. It's Danny Joe, and Danny Joe will do this children web series with a tight budget. It will be really amazing. He said to bring cardboard because we want to do a hands-on thing also at the same time. So it's on Sunday at 1 p.m. East time. So whatever you are in America or in the world, just feel free to tune in and join us. It will be a great moment of like rethinking our art, rethinking and like give value to it, because it's kind of so great that we get the potential to stop a bit and just readjust. I feel it like I'm a positive person, so I always see as an opportunity to grow instead of like feeling, but it's sad and we have to acknowledge that. But let's see like good discovery happen in sometimes sad moments. So let's find good discovery. So yeah, everyone, feel free to chat with me during the interview. I kind of getting used to that, so I'm kind of able to drag the question into the screen and just tell me where you are right now. Like say a little hi from wherever you are in the world, and I will be so happy. And yes, that's part of the game. So yeah, let's bring my guest into the screen right now. It's someone from Las Vegas. I'm so happy because I was supposed to be there. So it's kind of like, okay, I would bring Vegas to me instead of being there and playing a show. But let's bring him in the screen, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome Mr. Derek Lux.
Hey everybody, how you doing?
Hey, me, I'm fine. I think everyone, you can write down how you are, where you are, and yes, it will be fine.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm so happy. It's kind of like good connection, and yeah, it's a timing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that you won't be in Las Vegas for at least a little while. Yeah,
we will go back. Let's wish positivity towards the future. So we have people from New Zealand watching this interview. So yeah, hi New Zealand, Jared is there. So yeah, Derek, could you bring, I like sometimes to hear the puppeteer introduce himself, like where it's from, like the background, wherever, how you want to do it. But could you introduce yourself to the people who are watching right now?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, so I'm Derek Lux. I'm the founder and director of both DLUX Puppets and DLUX Entertainment. We do live theatrical productions using puppetry, multimedia, music, and actors. So we tour the country with our stage shows. We have a production of Alice in Wonderland and Peter Pan, and we go into performing arts centers and perform for, a week or a weekend intermittently. And we have, like for Alice in Wonderland, we have 7 different puppets in that production. We have life-size puppets. So I have like some that are kind of hand-sized puppets, and then some that are 7 feet tall or hybrid puppets. For both productions, Alice in Wonderland and Peter Pan, we have all digitally projected scenery. So we can do a lot of virtual things in our show. Like if Alice falls down the rabbit hole, the scenery behind her moves up and she's standing there, falling down. So so we try to, they're family productions, but we try to really, up the production value. So That way, we're kind of bringing the old art of puppetry and the new digital technology together. And we also do parodied songs. So we have well-known songs. So for an Alice in Wonderland, we have the Beach Boys, we have Queen, a lot of well-known songs, rewritten lyrics. So it's kind of like a jukebox musical in a sense. So that's the productions we do. As you said, I'm based in Las Vegas. I'm originally from the San Francisco area of California. I lived there, and I also lived in Los Angeles for a number of years, and we moved to Las Vegas 1 year ago. So we're still pretty new to out here. But I have a broad background in performing arts and in puppetry, so I kind of done a little bit of everything thus far. So that's, in a kind of big nutshell, that's me and my company.
I like that. It's great to see how the evolution of an artist also. I want to know, I always ask, why do you cherish the art of puppetry?
Yeah, great question. I know I was looking over,
it's hard. It's sometimes like, oh.
Questions that I might be asked and other people have been asked. And I thought, okay, but no, it's one of those things I almost don't even know. It's, why do we gravitate to the arts as opposed to athletics or sports? Or it's one of those, like, I don't know, but I know that I grew up watching puppets, and I always loved them. I got into puppetry at first when I was a child and put it aside to become an actor, and then in my late 20s revisited it again. And it was just something that kind of, as cliche as it sounds, it almost called to me. I was in a point where there wasn't a whole lot creatively or artistically happening in what I was doing with acting, and I just couldn't get my mind off of puppets and wanting to explore puppets and that. So even now, I don't even know. I just see a puppet and I'm like, oh, I'm drawn to it. I have to throw it on, or I'm always watching something with puppets. So, I wish I had a better answer, but I guess I'm drawn to it because I just love it.
It's a good one. It's great to just have the crush, because that's the next question is, how did your crush for puppetry happen? Like, do you have a specific moment you could say, oh, this is a kind of a moment with puppets?
Yeah. I definitely have moments like that for acting. That I know. I always have told people there were one or two defining moments in my life. As an actor, I went, oh, that's what I'm going to do. For puppets, I think it would probably just be a source rather than a specific moment. I, of course, grew up loving Jim Henson, The Muppets, Sesame Street, Fraggle Rock. I grew up I was born in the 1980s. So I was, growing up in that time when there was so much in TV and film. I think, though, probably my first real fascination with puppets on a deeper level was from a ventriloquist named Ron Lucas. And Ron Lucas is a very well-known ventriloquist, was here in Vegas for a number of years. I saw, even just recently, I mean, I think he left like 6 months before I got here. I'm like, oh, if only. But so I grew up, he had one really big special on the Disney Channel, and it was, I think it was called Who's in Charge Here? And so it was just kind of like how a comedian would have like a 1 hour Netflix special. He had a 1 hour, live taped Disney special, and he just had his characters and went through it, and it's just phenomenal. I mean, at the top of his game, I'm sure he's still at the top of his game. I mean, he's an incredible ventriloquist, singer, puppeteer. I mean, all of the different, subcategories of art forms. He's really phenomenal. But one thing he did in his act is he would tell kids or tell the audience that, you could make a puppet. So he takes off his shoe, takes off his sock, and puts a sock on his hand, puts a rubber band around the mouth, and said, look, now you've got a puppet. And that stuck out to me. And so I think I ran right away, took my shoe out and said, Mom, do we have a rubber band? I want to do that. And I must have been, 5, 6 years old. And I think that would probably be the moment when I realized what they were doing out there could transfer to me, and I could do that. So I think that's where that started. And then, I'm going to give a second answer if I can.
Yeah, go for it. Go.
There's one other, I just remembered as I was telling this, the other defining moment was, I must have been in 4th or 5th grade. And my mother took me to a puppet show at the library. and it was a marionette show. And the marionettist is someone I actually know now and I'm friends with now, and has amazing puppets. And I just remember sitting there being enamored by the puppets. And I was 10, 11 years old. I wasn't really little anymore. I should probably be, into sports or other things. But I remember just watching it, and then my mother had me go up and brought me over and introduced me to the Puppeteer. And he said, "Well, there's a local puppet guild that meets monthly. Why don't you come? It's going to be here and here the next month. And why don't you come, and I'll happily introduce you to everybody." And so for probably the next 2 years, I started attending Puppet Guild meetings in San Francisco. So that one moment in the library watching these marionettes, and I don't do marionettes, but I love all puppetry. Seeing those, that kind of, I think, sparked in something in me and said, I want to do this. And more curious, I wanted to build them. I wanted to know how they worked. I used to love taking electronics apart when I was a child and looking at the inside. So there's kind of an engineer mind that goes, how do these things work? So my first thing that drew me to puppetry was the puppet building aspect and how I fell in love with that. And that was what I was really fascinated with. Even those first few years as a child, I would get blocks of foam and cut them up and try to make sculptures and make them move. One summer, I don't think I even went outside all summer. I just would snip foam with scissors all day long. And so that was kind of the first, like, woo, he's crazy about puppets. And that lasted a few years until, like I said, then I kind of shifted more as a performer to acting, and then came around to it. But those two moments, Ron Lucas and that marionette show, are probably what really defined it for me.
Wow. I like to travel in time and just see those kind of like reveal moment. I think it's really, really interesting.
Okay.
And that's good because you are a multidisciplinary artist. Like me, myself, I always said, like, I do a lot of things, but it's kind of, we specialize into puppetry, but I want to know, because you're a singer, you're a performer also, you do acting, and you have done maybe some camera stuff as an actor also. I want to know, in your opinion, like, what would be the best field of study to become a puppeteer? Like, what do you believe in your own opinion?
Sure. Yeah, it's a great question. And I know that one that everybody probably has a different answer. Let's see. I just saw a comment. Libby, I know Libby. Hi, Libby. What's up? So what is the best field to study to go into it? I've been thinking about that, and I think truthfully, I guess you could say that all art is storytelling in a sense. Yeah. You're telling a story. It's not just, there's something behind it. There's a message, there's a story behind it. Mm-hmm. So I think all puppetry is storytelling. So then I think my answer would be then, what type of puppetry are you into? To really hone into, I guess, the mechanics and the technical aspect of it. So if you do, I'm going to try to assume other arts that I don't know, but like shadow puppetry. I don't know what the best field of study would be for that type of puppetry. For marionettes, I know the type of puppetry I do, being the hand and rod, the Muppet style puppetry. My personal opinion for that art form would be acting. There are many people who come into it from improv, which is just another form of acting, really. I mean, more or less, because you still need to be listening. You need to be truthful in a moment. As I was saying before, when I was in high school, I did my first musical, and then that's what I realized I wanted to do. I wanted to go to Broadway, so I learned sing, act, dance. I learned those skills. I've never been a great student, so I learned them all either privately or in classes, kind of a la carte, rather than university. And I trained myself that way. And many of the puppeteers, again, in this style, the hand and rod style, that I truly admire, they come from a background of acting, that they themselves were actors first, and they fell into puppetry. They didn't really seek out it, but that they realized that those skills were applicable. And just like voiceover, voiceover work, it's basically voice acting. For a long time, I didn't understand that because I was trained as a singer. I just thought I could talk, if I just affected my voice. and sounded a certain way, you know, then, oh, okay, I can sound like this. But I realized you take all that away, it's just acting. You still are conveying an intention or an action, and it all just comes through your voice, and that's what's recorded. Same with puppetry, is that you put your acting into your arm. That's it. You know, of course, yeah, you're also using a voice if you are voicing the puppet, but it's no different. You just have to understand, you know, how can I make this be an actor as opposed to this, you know, from my head to my toes. So, but again, yeah, I had singing training, dancing training. I also did martial arts for a long time. I did martial arts for over 10 years, 2 different times in my life, most like from like 10 to 18 or 19 or something. And then I did it again in my 20s. And so I think either acting or some sort of movement training is what a puppeteer will need, because there's certain puppetry that's like dance. You know, if you understand body mechanics, you understand technique, you understand how to. I even had someone, I'm like, move your hand like this, and they literally had never, they didn't know, and that's no fault of their own. But if they don't know how to manipulate their body in ways or do things, or oh, when you do this, it's isolating the ribs, or turn your hips over, and they don't maybe understand the finer mechanics of that. Then they may be held back a little bit in how they can get, you know, how do I not have the top? How do I, you know, take the puppet and actually do this so the top is not flapping back? You know, all of this understanding of movement and of body will help you with the technical aspect. So I said, I think really half of it is technical, you know, and so if it's just technique, physical technique, then you can have multiple backgrounds or some sort of movement. But then if it goes further, as it should, into the storytelling, then you need to understand the acting and how do I have my character, you know, look down, or how do I get, you know, gaze, like what does the neck do? What does that interpret to the audience? It's saying that I'm conveying this emotion now or feeling this. So you have to understand how to, you know, play that intention or play that emotion. You never want to play emotion in acting, but now I'm getting into all the acting stuff. But I think understanding these conversations of, you know, that you have in an acting class are directly applicable to puppetry, to understanding how to make this character now come to life. Sorry, that was a long answer.
Take a sip. And yeah, it's kind of something like, it's funny because we have different viewpoint at the Puppet Podcast, and it's really interesting. But I agree, like the acting and movement is really, really part of it. And yeah, for sure. And it's funny you name martial art, because we get also this recently into the viewpoint of like work on yourself, and it will reflect on your manipulation and your interpretation of a puppet. That's really interesting. And I was just
learning, I think there's two puppeteer, two, you know, really established, I think it was both Noel McNeil and Marty Robinson, both have years of martial arts training, you know, and I never knew that till just recently. And so I was like, oh, there, I mean, and that's something I had. It's kind of nice when you're in an art form and you see other similarities of other artists you admire, and you go, oh, I have that too. Okay, cool. It's not just me. Like everyone else is maybe gravitating towards the similar things, you know? So, yeah, I think it's just, like you were saying, it's just continual work and refining of one's instruments, you know? Puppetry is performance, and you perform with your instrument. So yeah, it's just constantly refining that.
Yeah, it's a great answer. I want to go into the definition, like what is your own definition of a puppet? Sometimes I feel like guests go into poetry about like, but do you have in your own words some definition?
It's probably not poetic at all. Well, I can get pretty, I guess why I don't get too poetic is because, like I said, I came to puppetry from different fields, and I think it's an amazing art form, but I never elevate it higher than others or other art forms. So I'm not too precious with the art form. So I'm never gonna, you know, be like, well, the craft of puppetry, you know. I love it, and I absolutely respect it and respect many artists, but I kind of talk about it maybe more casually.
Yeah,
Maybe that'll change one day. But no, I think my answer is probably just very casual and textbook. I mean, I've done puppetry workshops where I teach high school students all the way down to whatever, and I say, okay, what's the definition of a puppet? Or what is the definition of a puppetry? I say, puppetry is animating an inanimate object, or giving life to something that is lifeless, and it's creating it. I've heard puppeteers say they don't like, manipulate. It has a negative connotation. Yeah, I get that. So I usually say to animate an object, to make it come to life, animation. But that's really kind of in a nutshell it. And I when I do workshops, I'll have people hold out objects. I say, take out something from your purse, your backpack, hold it up, let me see. Anything can be a puppet. I take a wallet and make a mouth, or I take lipstick, I take anything and just say, it doesn't have to be this, it can be anything, as long as, and it even doesn't have to have a moving mouth. It could just be lipstick that's turning, looking, and then walking away or something. It could be anything that you make a character out of. Yes. So that's kind of it. That's my definition, I guess.
It's great. Textbook is great.
Yeah, I'm very textbook on that one.
I want to know, do you think our art, do you think puppet art is in an ascension right now? Or it's getting less popular in your observation?
I think, I don't know if it's in a exact ascension, but I think it's in a renaissance or a rebirth. Well, the Renaissance, would that be an ascension? I don't know. I guess I don't know my history. But I was like, was the yeah. But no, I think we're in a comeback. Let's just say that, it's a return to puppetry. I think there's so many puppet projects that are happening that I see. I have friends in Los Angeles who work in film and TV puppetry full time, and they're busy. I mean, not necessarily at the moment with the pandemic, but I mean the past year or two. There's more TV shows that you see. I mean, Fraggle Rock. First they were doing just those. Fraggle Rock On. And then now it actually got a full season that they're going to then shoot in studios as opposed to quarantine style. And now we see the Dark Crystal. I mean, all these that you see, I think are definitely kind of a great comeback. I think people have seen a lot of CGI, and it's great, but you kind of reach a threshold with it. And I think sometimes the CGI is so hyper realistic that your eye doesn't actually believe it anymore, and you can see a divide. And I'm not against CGI, but I think most people in entertainment want a blending, of practical effects and CGI. It's like the very first Jurassic Park. Perfect example, in the wide shots, you do have a Gallimimus, running through CGI. And then in the tighter shots, you had, T-Rex, animatronic head, come in and out of frame. And when you blend it, then you start to really believe it, So I think people are kind of correcting now back to saying, you know what, we should do more puppetry because we did CGI everything. And people are kind of like, oh. So, so that's what I think. Now, what I want to do is I do occasionally work in film and TV or on camera puppetry, but my companies are theatrical. And so what I want to do, my mission is to have, beautiful, big theatrical productions with, theatrical puppetry. And there's many people that are, Cirque du Soleil is probably the most lavish example of what I aspire to, in many ways. But what I want to do is kind of create just an all puppet type of brand with that. Cirque du Soleil incorporates many different art forms, as you of course know. But I want to make almost like an exclusive puppet brand of these big, productions and things. And we're doing it with these, classic stories, because that was for us what felt like the right place to start. But we want to, and the reason we're here in Las Vegas is to have one of our productions on the Strip, in residency. And before the pandemic, we were almost there, actually. It was actually something we haven't made public, but we were in negotiations and we were talking, and it was. but everything's shut down, so I don't know. We'll revisit it when the time comes. But same thing is that I knew that this town could give me the opportunities to have the big theatrical live puppets, which is what so far that's what my specialty or not specialty. I mean, or what I've fallen into, I guess you could say.
That's cool. That's great. I have a question right there.
Yeah.
Let's bring it into the screen.
Right.
Look at this.
Yes.
Ellen ask,
who is the puppeteer
you admire the most?
Most? Ooh. Oh,
kind
boy.
of a good question, Eileen.
Yeah, what are my favorite children? No, it's like, no, the most. Oh gosh. Well, okay. And this is just personal preference. It's one of those things again that there's no. It's like the Oscars. How can you compare performances?
Yeah.
They're all wonderful. It's just what you think. It's subjective. My favorite is subjective. It's not who's better. But personally, I think my puppeteer that I've really been admiring and watching a lot of his work, on film and TV, is Bill Beretta with the Muppets, because he's someone that I see had a similar journey. He started as an actor. I mean, of course, our journeys are totally different, but he was an actor. He sings, and he really made the transition from being kind of like a New York style actor to now a puppeteer. And when I was training, I kind of wanted to be a New York style method actor at the time. That's what I was trying to do with the Broadway stuff. And I don't know, it was very weird, but it gave me a broad background. So he is someone I admire in film and TV. And there's many other examples, of course, but just someone that just comes to mind because I see some, I think I maybe have the very, very small potential to touch on what he has touched on, maybe one day. So I see that. But then there's so many others. There are many other ventriloquists, many other people whose work I admire. But hard to go through a whole list, and I won't bore you. But that's probably the right now, like I said, like in the moment, the person who's working.
Yeah, so we should have a look to all of this good people. And it's kind of like you almost answered, but do you feel that puppetry has reached its full potential, or do you feel it's still room to improvement? As with technology, I really want to have your answer on that.
Yeah, that's a hard one, I think, because in any industry, I feel like there's always that person that comes forward and changes it, and it's never the same again. In acting, it was Marlon Brando. In America, in England, it was Laurence Olivier. The person who, we had never seen acting like this, and then it changes everything. With puppets, it was Jim Henson. We'd never seen puppets like this. It had been kind of the same for the bulk of its history, and then boom, comes in and it's completely changed. And now we judge everything based off of that person's accomplishments and that person, and you could say the same for many other industries or other art forms, that there was that turning point. So in terms of it reaching its peak, I don't want to say it has, but I mean, I don't know how you can one up Jim Henson. I don't know how, and again, in this field, I know there's so many fields or so many other types of styles of puppets and puppetry. Sometimes people get very limited in their thinking. It's just Muppets. Like, there's a whole lot more than that, expand. But that's my field, so that's what I think about. I mean, it was revolutionary, even like what we're doing right now. We've got the screen. I'm not sure if it's this frame or this frame. I see both. But we've got a frame here. Everybody did puppet shows in a box, but he just said, get rid of the box, make the frame the box. That was revolutionary. Make them not hard, make them flexible so you can convey different emotions and stuff. I mean, that stuff, I don't know if anybody's had as big of a aha, or a big breakthrough since then, There's many people who are doing awesome stuff. I mean, Julie Taymor, someone I should bring up is someone who's, I saw Lion King and it was just, I almost cried. And I'm sure it seems very similar, I imagine, to styles that you practice. Yeah, she's another person I think for theater puppetry that I think kind of, ooh, did it again.
Yeah.
She calls it, I think, the double event, making the puppeteer visible with the
Yes.
puppet, and the audience sees the double event. They see the puppet and the puppeteer. And after a while, the puppeteer is no longer as interesting to watch as the puppet, but they get a choice to watch. And so it's double performance. It's a behind the scenes as they're watching. So that's probably the next, and again, because now I'm doing a lot of theater, to me, that's kind of the next big kind of turning point, I feel like, in the puppetry styles that I follow. Jim Henson and then Julie Taymor in the late 90s, kind of switching it. And then that, of course, brought about Avenue Q and other, Warhorse, so many other types of shows. But, you didn't have to hide the puppeteer. You can make them visible, and that was okay. And the audience actually liked it, So I hope the biggest thing is, I feel like myself, and I know so many other people, fall into the same trap, though. This is back to your original question, has it reached? Maybe it has, or whatever, but I do think we're all kind of just doing the same thing. We're still like, well, this is how Jim Henson built his puppets, so this is how we build puppets. Like, nothing wrong with that, and I'm guilty. I build my puppets exactly that way, but because I'm also trying to raise my artistic bar and craftsmanship, and making sure I'm as precise. But I'm just regurgitating techniques and that they have. I think for people to really have that turning point, they need to throw it all away and do something brand new. And I personally, I'm not that original. I'm not. I think I take a lot of little things and put it together and then create something original. But in all the pieces, I'm just kind of taking in what I see around me. So we'll see. Hopefully there's someone that the next Jim Henson or the next person rises up. Who knows? But I think it's good. I just feel like I see more people than ever in puppetry, and with social media and the internet, we're seeing more people use puppetry or learning it. So it's kind of great that there's this great community that's formed around it, that's visible now.
Yes, totally. I try to, as a purpose, to make it like reveal all the puppeteer and make the connection. That's that's true. I agree with your answer.
Great.
And your purpose, I always want to, because you have another answer, but question, but I want your answer about the purpose, your biggest purpose as a puppeteer.
Oh, to get paid. No. No, that's what we all want, right? No. I'm very lucky. I do get paid. But no, I mean, just wanting the next contract, the next thing. My company is, big contract. So it's like, okay. But no, what is my purpose? I think, honestly, what the type of content that we've been creating, it's for families, it's for children. We're very close to doing an adult production, but we shelved it for a little while. I'm sure we will one day. But right now, the one thing that we've been doing with our puppetry is, to empower children and families. Yeah. So I guess you could say our purpose would be to, bring joy and also empower children, and because we teach a lot of social, emotional learning, or mental health type of topics in our shows. And so we're trying to empower children to kind of self-regulate, or to use, different, higher concepts like the law of attraction, or to, positivity, or self-help, or things of this nature to really kind of change any sort of negative circumstances or thought patterns in their life, and go forward. So that's kind of been our purpose, is to, basically bring joy, of course, and entertainment, but to really empower children to make their lives better.
That's amazing. It's really a dedication also, and it's full of message, and it's great. Oh, another kid.
I know. It keeps asking all these questions. I love it. Yeah.
It's Aileen. Aileen, she's a fan. She was my co-host when we do the Spanish.
Oh yeah, in Mexico. Yeah. We've added a bunch. Yeah. Okay.
It's kind of interesting to continue with this one. How different it's puppetry now. Like she wants to know more about the now situation?
Yeah, well, I'm not able to do any of my stage shows because of the quarantine and restrictions. I mean, restrictions are letting up, but live entertainment is not going to be happening for a little while, and that's fine. We're kind of switching. So I guess the answer is that it was looking really good because Las Vegas has so many entertainers, but I've been looking not as many puppeteers as ventriloquists or one person acts that might incorporate a puppet, but I'm not a ventriloquist. So, the type of puppetry I do is just different. And so there's not as many that I found here. So I've had a few opportunities, people reaching out to me for different productions, film and TV productions or on-camera productions where I'm, doing the standard, puppetry, things like that. So that's been kind of cool. But how is it different now? I mean, we're having to pivot. We're not going to be doing any stage shows for a while. So we're fortunate enough to actually, it's just great. It just happened last week. A company we worked with before, we pitched them a concept. And so we're going to be creating digital content for a while now with them, which is going to be great. And we'll see how that goes. I'm not at liberty to say exactly what it is yet, but I will make an announcement of it soon. But it's actually very topical right now and very helpful and still helping and empowering children. So that is something. So that's, in Vegas, I think it's going to return. And I have many, many big goals of what I want to do with puppets here and also in like the live event industry and convention industry here and nightlife and things I want to do with puppets. But then also our stage shows. But for now, it's digital.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have a lot to learn from the digital too. But let's see how it goes. And you have another question here.
Which?
Yeah, what would be the thing you have had to art of, like you personally? I think it's.
I'm trying to see if I understand the question.
What would be the thing?
The international less love.
Like the little thing that you had, maybe personally to the art. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm reading it again. One more time.
Yeah, let's bring it again.
And I was looking at context of some of the other comments and questions to go, okay, how am I? Yeah. Which would be the thing?
Like maybe the little special thing that you bring to the art. You feel.
Okay. Yes, personally. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, there she clarified it.
Well, like you had said, I'm a multidisciplinary puppeteer, I guess, because I build all my own puppets for our stage shows. If the costumes are very elaborate, we work with a costumer, but I design and pattern and fabricate and engineer everything myself. Wow. Mechanisms, things like that. Not too elaborate mechanisms, but things like that. So I think personally, I'm just what I bring to it is a kind of if someone wants to work with me, I'm kind of a one-stop shop. I can. From beginning to end, I can meet any of your puppet needs. Within reason, but I can create the puppet performance thing. What else do I share? I mean, I have a background in singing. I can do a lot of different voices. I didn't know as many voices until this quarantine. I have young children. And so I've been doing stories, just making up stories every night. And every night I'm trying to come up with a new character and a new voice. I'm like, okay. I did a little voiceover for a few years, but it was always very kind of standard, or just commercial. It was, never too animated or zany or anything, but I'm kind of trying to stretch as much as I can in that aspect. So I think it's probably just, like I said, my broad skill set. I wouldn't say I'm amazing at any one of the things that I bring to the table, but I do bring a handful of things. And so I've always said, some people have one amazing talent. I've been in many musicals where someone would open their mouth to sing and just everybody stopped and watched. I mean, they were put on this planet to sing. That's what their purpose is. I have always had a few things that I've been pretty or really good at, but never like, oh, you know, never.
Yeah.
And so I think my talent is being multi-talented and being a person that is, you know, is accomplished or proficient in a handful of many things that put together in a combination is unique. You know, it
Yes.
sounds so egotistical, man, talking about myself, but I
No,
don't know. I mean,
but it's answering the question. It's kind of like the multidisciplinary aspect of it is really something that, like, I feel puppetry needs also to be a high performer and be able to do multitasking, multi stuff.
yeah, and that's why I said my preference is that I feel the strongest performers or puppeteers, you know, came from another type of performing, which means that they're not opposed to switching, to learning, to starting over. They've probably, if they've jumped into puppetry from something else, then they've probably done a few things, and so they have a broad background, and they're not afraid to get in there and be a beginner. And there's nothing wrong. I've met some amazing puppeteers that they knew they wanted to be a puppeteer from the time they were 6, and that's all they've ever done. And they're great. They're phenomenal. But if you're coming into it, you know, I think it can just help immensely. And a lot of times those puppeteers that have done it all their lives, well, they knew that they needed to train in other things as well. And most likely they did. They can do voices. They can move their body. They know those things as well.
Yeah, they will pick up on the way. And where do you see puppetry art in 10 years?
Oh, that's a great question. I hope just as relevant or more as right now. So on Broadway, there was a production of King Kong that was open recently. It closed about, I don't know when it closed. I think it closed in the fall or something. But for those who don't know, or if you don't know, they had like a 30-foot tall, you know, King Kong gorilla puppet from Australia or New Zealand. I'm not sure. But I believe it was Australia. It was a production that a few years ago was mounted and then ultimately had its Broadway debut. And it took a team of puppeteers. I think it was like maybe a dozen puppeteers, many on the stage with, you know, it was kind of a hybrid marionette and animatronic. So they had people in the sound booth doing, you know, different types of animatronic controls and people moving the gross movements of him. And when I saw, I didn't see it live. I would have loved to. I had many people who saw it live and would message me, be like, I thought of you when I saw this, because this is something you'd probably go crazy for. And it was digital projections and stuff. I hope we see more of that. I hope that's something, you know, people always, you know, say too, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years? I mean, I hope it's a big goal, but I hope in Las Vegas, I can do something like that with my companies. You know, like I said, what I've always said to people, and I'm saying it again, is that what my biggest dream would be is I would love to be the Cirque du Soleil of puppets. You know, there's puppets, but you know, to the person who maybe doesn't know too much about Cirque du Soleil, it looks like the circus, but made times million and beautiful and this and that. But it seems like, okay, juggling, acrobatics, okay, I mean, it is much more than that. But to the person who may not know, it's like, oh, okay, I want to take the puppetry art form and rise it to that level of splendor of so many people, lavish productions, you know. So I hope if I don't do it, I hope someone else does it in the next 10 years so that we can all enjoy that, you know. So but I hope it's me. Just gonna say that.
I like this answer. I like the wish list. We have to just envision the future, and it's really part of our duty as an artist. If you envision, you go towards a mountain, and you're on the way. So that's I bring you my intention. So go for it.
Absolutely. And I mean, you were talking about how you believe in positivity, as do I. And I mean, I have vision boards in my house. I have manifested things like that in my life, you know. Each thing I've wanted to happen, I always say that, you know, if you are going after it and you are using those skills to manifest something in your life, it never happens the way you want it to, but it happens better or something, you know. So many times I've wanted to go after a big goal or aspiration, and it didn't quite happen, but then it happened in this way. And then I look back and go, oh, it did happen, but it's not like what I thought it would look like. And this is way better than what I wanted. But you've got to do the work of, attracting it into your life.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to conclude, do you have a puppet near you? You will want to put in front of the screen to show what we just talked.
Yeah, I've got a handful in the corner. I've got a couple, Muppet style puppets. I also have the Mad Hatter from our Alice in Wonderland production. Why don't I bring him out, because he's fun. The other puppets are great, but they look somewhat generic in a sense. But why don't I get him, and I'll be right back.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Go for it. Yeah. So I could talk during this time. I will do the commercial, Derek. Just stay there. So everyone, it's the commercial. So I will bring this during the time Derek prepare. So just stay tuned. We have this workshop who's coming with Danny Joe. So go have a look to the Patreon. We have new Patreon every day, and it's kind of like really exciting what's happening. So we will have fun on Sunday. So stay tuned for this. So let's bring Mr. into the screen. Oh my God.
So this is my Mad Hatter puppet. Let's see if I, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Different. From the Alice in Wonderland production. He's almost kind of like a ventriloquist style in that my hand goes in his back. But he sits behind a little tea table that I also sit behind, and we both get wheeled out together in the production. His eye, it's funny, the foam has shifted slightly, and he's been used a lot. And so his eye focus is not quite right anymore. it was. And then, no, it's this one. This one.
He looks a bit silly, like the fact that he's cross-eyed a bit.
Yeah, it's not quite right anymore. But it works for the stage too, also because it's very forgiving. But he's here, and usually I'm sitting with him on stage. He has his other hand affixed to a teacup, and then I've got a rod here with a thumb loop, so I can gesture. He's also got a handle in the back here, so I can, when he's standing up, I can move his hips around. And then he's also got foot controls. So he'll actually, he has this scene, and then he has a big song, and he actually stands on the table and is dancing for a while. Well, I can't quite get the angle right, but he's up there. But anyway, he shows up to Alice, and then he's like, well, hello, my dear. I'm the Mad Hatter. Won't you join me for what is going to be the most beautiful tea party on the most glorious day in all of Wonderland? I hold that note for like a very long time in the show, just to, whatever. But he's silly, and he'll gesture and be like, like, what did he say? He'll say things to Alice. You're crazy, Alice. I don't actually say you're crazy, but I have fun, and we talk to her, and he's fun.
I love his hair. What is your hair, little man?
No, it's feathers. It's feathers. They're ostrich feathers that are dyed, kind of like the Electric Mayhem in the Muppets. But his, again, it's a similar Muppet style. It's fleece, nylon fleece, or it used to be called Antron. Fleece is what the industry term used to be. But he's patterned sheet foam. His hands were patterned and also carved. But he's covered in fleece, and he's got a lot of he's got a chin definition here, and the inside of his hands are actually carved as well, so he's got a lot of definition there. Knuckles. And I spent a lot of time on him because he was kind of our puppet that we used to pitch the project, and then also kind of market everything in the beginning. And when we meet children after the show, Alice will be there, and then I'll have him, and well, hello, oh, what a nice handbag you have. Just talk to their families and people and things like that.
The character have a clown side, so it could be really good to bring to children.
Good. Yeah, but we have an amazing costumer that he actually, you can see it's corduroy with sequins. His jacket. It's the most interesting find that our costumer had. So he's a fun puppet,
Yes.
I've got many other puppets and all sorts of stuff, but he's the easiest and the character that I've put in a lot of time with, so I can just kind of riff with, Otherwise, the other puppets have to be like bolted or assembled or wheeled in. They're pretty large, and I've got puppets like this and stuff, which are great, but oops, oh, he looks like he's drunk. But these puppets they're great, but they're they're kind of standard. It looks a little bit like Sesame Street, which is fine. I love that style too, but this is another character that my kids and I they love YouTube and doing family blogs, so they always want him to do family blogs. So my name's Donnie, and well, I'm kind of like his third child because we mostly just do a lot of, I don't know, challenges and really kind of lowest common denominator YouTube content. Nah, it's okay. I'm not gonna. Those people are making great money, those influencers. But I was a puppet that was just around in a box for a long time that really didn't get used for anything after a client didn't want it. And so this guy over here kind of refurbished me and changed me up a little bit, gave me a new lease on life.
Yeah. You're an influencer.
I am an influencer who makes no money and has no followers. But it's okay. It's okay. I do it for the kids. It's fine. Yeah. There's no kids around, but it's fun.
I could be the kids.
Yeah, you can be the kids? All right. Amazing. And other puppets and things. I've got this big guy right here. That's fun. I'll show you that one and then I'll stop. Puppeteers love to perform. But my son, I made a little puppet years ago when they were born that I put in their nursery. And my idea was that I was going to use that puppet to talk to them and such when they were little. And I never really did it that much. But then one of my sons is interested in puppetry. He basically kept saying, could you make me his dada? So there's this little blue puppet, and then there's this guy. Hi, I'm Fuzzy's dada. The little puppet was called Fuzzy, and so it stands to reason I would be his dada. Very unoriginal name. Remember how he said he was unoriginal? He is a very unoriginal person. Yep. So this is just a fun live hand puppet. Like I said, I enjoy making complicated, very detailed puppets. And then as much as I like challenging myself, I honestly had actually never made this style of, monster live hand puppet before. I was, I've got to make one of those for myself. The only thing about the quarantine that has been good for my use of time is that I could make a few more puppets for personal use. So
yes.
So thanks for letting me play show and tell with a few that I have around here.
That's great. That's kind of good to be in front of an audience and perform. I really understand how it is. It's probably
the most performing I've done in the past month. So exactly.
Yeah, thank you so much. I want to just acknowledge all you do. I wish Vegas will get up. I think as Broadway and Vegas, they are kind of the place where we'll look. Okay, if they get up, everyone will get up. But to get up of this crisis. But I wish you all the best with you, your wife, all your family. I think it's kind of good to keep focused towards big goals and digital content was happening. So that's great.
Yeah, thank you. And like I said, I have every faith that Vegas, Broadway, it will return. No one's seen anything quite like this in our lifetime or, in 100 years since the last pandemic like this. But these cities have suffered crises or tragedies. And, I'm new to Vegas, but everyone around me is like, Vegas returns. It always bounces back. And I believe that about Broadway, probably the West End, as well. It's like, it'll return. So all I can do is be positive and patient. And luckily I've got digital content that I've been contracted to make. So I can still do my art and pay the bills. And for that, I'm really, really grateful. Yeah.
Yes. And if people wants to see more of your work, where they can find it?
Sure. So probably the best, most established one is DLUX Puppets. We also have, we were kind of working on rebranding. So we also have DLUX Entertainment, but that was really so we could launch here in Vegas. And then that's kind of been put on pause. So, but yeah, it's basically, if they can see, it's at DLUX Puppets, so DLUX, because that's my name, Derek Lux, DLUX Puppets. On Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, the website, all that stuff. So DLUX Puppets or DLUX Entertainment, and they can see our work and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yes. So thank you very much, Derek. And yeah, we will see each other in the future. Let's wish that everything would go back.
Yes, I can't wait to have coffee or tea with you when you're here working in Vegas.
Yes, yeah, let's wish it. Thank you very much. So I will say the last word. So stay there and we talk after the interview. Yeah, everyone, thank you for watching this episode. That was amazing to talk about numeric, like digital puppetry. And yeah, like stay tuned. We have another podcast tomorrow with Kristen Averty from the at Atlanta. So yeah, it will be great too. So stay tuned. It's at 6 tomorrow. So everyone have a good night, good evening if it's not night. And yeah, enjoy and let's keep doing puppet art. See you. Learn how to get your first 1,000 YouTube subscribers. Join our Patreon page now. Link in the description.